The country's 250 members of parliament, Catholic bishops in the southern African country are urging transparency, impartiality and integrity in the vote. Around 17 million registered voters are expected to cast their ballots, and the bishops say every voter should be able to vote and their votes counted and adequately reported. 4 major candidates will be competing to replace President Filipe Nyusi, who has been prevented by the Constitution to seek re-election. Here is our cover report from Maputo. It was the final stretch for the candidates wooing the electorate in Mozambique as they now wait for the October 9th polls. Mozambique Democratic Movement Party MDM Fatima Mimbiri is hoping to persuade other women to support her.
We want to support the youth that has initiatives. In our country, most of the young people are intelligent, but they don't know where to go and they don't know what to do. So we want to build a center of excellence on this province. We want to create a new generation of millionaires in this province. Is it impossible to have new millionaires here?
Renamo Party's Osufo Momadi, who comes from the south, has used a broom as his campaign tool and symbol that he says he will use to clean the corruption, the lack of school desks, lack of water and lack of roads once he's elected.
Frelimo never won. We cannot lie to the world. Frelimo never won. Since 1974, we have had fraudulent elections. In this moment, we want to appeal for fair and transparent elections so that we don't see conflict. From the beginning, we have announced that the brooms are to clean the corruption, the lack of school desks, lack of water, roads, to access roads.
And then there is Daniel Chapo, the presidential candidate of Mozambique's ruling party, Frelimo. Chapo is widely expected to become the new president.
No doubt that on the 9th, it's Chapo. No doubt, no doubt.
Since I was born, I was with Frelimo until today. Frelimo is the party that freed our country, the only party.
People in Mozambique's capital Maputo say they hope for a better future ahead of the Southern African nation's October 9th presidential and legislative elections.
I will choose our President Chapo because he is going to do something for our future. He can make things better, give us jobs, build more schools.
In the vibrant capital of the Portuguese-speaking country, the lack of suspense is palpable days ahead of the presidential and parliamentary elections, but it still stirs emotion. Frelimo will be declared the winner, as it always is, says a 33-year-old selling cell phone airtime on the street.
Yes, if we vote, it will change. It should count when we vote, but elections are never transparent.
As the relentless sun peels away posters on walls around the central market, making them flutter in the wind, Frelimo, the former Marxist rebel movement whose Soviet-style logo features an ear of corn and a drum, monopolizes a space, crowding out its opponents from the Renamo, Podemos and MDM parties. Many are skeptical that Frelimo, in power since independence from Portugal in 1975, can ever be dethroned. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One. Kenya's Deputy President facing an impeachment motion in which he is accused of supporting anti-government protests in June and of being involved in corruption and other irregularities, has defended himself and said he will appear before Parliament. Rigathi Gachagua, in a televised speech, accused the legislator who drafted the motion of lying, calling it shameful and sensational. This is the first time he's publicly addressing in detail the issues raised by the legislator. Here's a report from Nairobi, Kenya.
And the dignity of the people of Kenya.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a man under siege. It's a kind of siege that will likely leave your hairline in recession. It has been a tough few months for the second-in-command, but an incredibly nightmarish 2 weeks after his impeachment was tabled in Parliament. A first in the nation, the tough-talking Riggy G, as he is popularly known, has been reduced to issuing apologies to those he wronged. But resigning for him is out of the question.
I have no intention whatsoever to resign from this job. I'll fight to the end. I have tremendous respect for our judiciary and the professional judges of the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. And in the professional manner they have handled serious issues affecting Kenya.
But even before he knows his fate, Rigathi can draw consolation from the fact that he's not the first one to be in this situation and will not be the last one. Kenya has had 10 vice presidents and 2 deputy presidents since the colonialists fled, leaving them the tough job of self-governance in 1963. Of the 12, only a handful had a cakewalk during their tenure. The rest either resigned in a huff or endured their tumultuous tenures in pain and silence. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was Kenya's first president and the first to teach Kenyans that one could actually resign from vice presidency, a high-profile, well-paying job. Legislators were expected to debate the motion and later hold a vote before the motion proceeds to the Senate. A total of 291 legislators, more than the 117 required by the Constitution, signed the impeachment motion before it was introduced. But a number of them, from the Deputy President's region, say that they no longer support it after hearing contrary views from their constituents.
I will also specifically demonstrate that the person of the Deputy President has committed the offense of gross misconduct in the manner of insubordinating the presidency and the Kenyan state. The Kenyan state is our soul, and if you insubordinate the state, you are not worth being a state officer.
President Ruto has yet to publicly comment about the impeachment, but is on record in the earlier days of his presidency saying he won't publicly humiliate his deputy, alluding to the troubled relationship he had with his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, during their second term in office. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
Russia's mercenary Wagner Group has told the family of a Russian fighter captured alive in Mali that he has now died, contradicting information provided by the Tuareg rebel group that held him. Wagner initially reported most of the fighters involved in the desert battle as missing in action. Using public data, facial recognition software, and interviews with relatives, Reuters identified the names of 31 mercenaries, either missing or captured from the battle with the Tuaregs. Here's a report from the volatile Sahel region.
Russian war veterans were among the Wagner mercenaries presumed dead in a desert battle with Tuareg rebels in Mali in late July 2024. These men had survived battles in Ukraine, Libya and Syria, according to a review of social media data and footage from the battle. The losses exposed the dangers faced by Russian soldiers and mercenary forces working for military juntas that are struggling to contain separatists and powerful offshoots of the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda across the arid Sahel region in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The Mali defeat raises doubts about Moscow's ability to do better than the Western forces recently expelled by the juntas, said 6 officials and experts who work in the region.
Well, it was the biggest defeat that Wagner suffered in Africa, and actually the biggest defeat it suffered beyond Ukraine after Syrian defeat a few years back. So it was highly unexpected by Russians because they considered that this is a more or less safe operation. They were still under impression that they are that it's an easy fight. They captured Kidal, the northern town in Mali, last year in November with no fight actually. So they underestimated the quality of Tuareg fighters that they were facing.
In Africa, Wagner emerged in Sudan in 2017 as the undeniable face of Russian operations. Its enterprises soon ranged from protecting African coup leaders to gold mining and fighting jihadists. Wagner is also active in Central African Republic. It first appeared in Mali in late 2021. Wagner's fate rose and fell last year. In May, the group led Russia to its first significant Ukrainian battlefield victory in almost a year with the capture of Bakhmut. But Prigozhin's criticism of Russian military leaders and his efforts to lead a rebellion weeks later ended with his death in a fiery plane crash in August. Africa Corps says that about half its personnel are former Wagner employees who it allows to use Wagner insignia. Wagner appears to still exist as an entity and its social media channels remain active.
We don't have a problem with Russia. It's Russia that has invited itself into problems that don't concern it. A problem this old, a conflict that has political dimensions, a problem that has nothing to do with what the Malian authorities tell you is a problem of terrorism or anything else.
Wagner acknowledged heavy losses in the Mali ambush, but gave no figure. The Malian army that fought alongside the Russians also did not give a toll. Tuareg rebels say they had killed 84 Russians and 47 Malians. Russian mercenary activities soared in Mali after Africa Corps was formed, according to data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a US-based crisis monitoring group. Based on media reports and social media documenting, the data shows violent events linked to Russian mercenaries rose 81% and reported civilian fatalities rose 65% over the past year compared to the year before Prigozhin's death.
The levels of civilian targeting have been incredibly high. Those have escalated in Mali beyond those that we saw under the leadership of Prigozhin. So if we do assume more control by the Ministry of Defense, then we also have to take into account that Russian mercenaries are carrying out higher levels of civilian targeting. We're seeing a rise in the number of estimated civilian fatalities at the hands of Africa Corps.
Democratic governments in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger were overthrown in a series of coups since 2020, driven by anger against corrupt leaders and a near decade of failed Western efforts to fight insurgencies that have killed thousands and displaced millions. The military juntas have kicked out French and US troops and UN peacekeepers. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
An initial amount of $20 million will be paid out to both white and black farmers who lost farmland during the era of the late President Robert Mugabe. According to Zimbabwe's finance minister, the payments are part of a series of measures to restore the once thriving farming sector and help launch a long-promised economic revival. Here's a report from Harare.
The Zimbabwean government is set to pay an initial $20 million to foreign white and local black farmers who lost land in farm invasions under former leader Robert Mugabe at the turn of the century. The spending was allocated in the 2024 budget as part of a series of measures to restore the country's once thriving farming sector and help launch a long-promised economic revival. Agriculture collapsed when Mugabe oversaw the seizure of highly productive farms in 2000. Most were owned by Zimbabwean white commercial farmers after colonialists forcibly took them from blacks early in the 20th century. But foreign white farmers and some black Zimbabweans also lost property in the seizures 25 years ago. Many of them spontaneous, unorganized and largely benefiting those with links to the ruling ZANU-PF party. The victims being compensated include foreign farmers from Belgium, Germany and other countries and 400 black Zimbabweans. A separate and much larger $3.5 billion scheme for 4,000 white Zimbabwean farmers was announced in the year 2020, but the money has not been forthcoming owing to Zimbabwe's financial woes. President Emerson, who replaced Mugabe in a 2017 coup, has sought to engage Western governments to restore ties, resolve Zimbabwe's huge foreign debt, and revive its economy, although last year's elections deemed not free and fair by observers did little to restore potential donor confidence.
What has happened is opened our eyes to things of the past that would have been not right in the eyes of the Lord. And actually, it showed us that get off your own little high horse, turn around, and look at the bigger picture. I can tell you, I feel very positive for the future. I'm 63 years old now, and I feel that this is where I'm going to grow old. Gary and I feel together, both of us feel, we're going to grow old together. This thing will become, we want to change this to a model farm.
Zimbabwe has been locked out of the global financial system for more than 2 decades after defaults. This has also deterred assistance from donors. The country is seeking an International Monetary Fund staff-monitored program as a first step towards debt relief. Zimbabwe's total foreign debt stock is $12 billion owed to the World Bank, African Development Bank, 16 Paris Club members and other private founders. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
The Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa was filled with 2 distinct celebrations last month, with the recent Irecha festival marking the end of the rainy season and a previous festival in the same month celebrating an annual religious event distinguished by the lighting of bonfires, according to the beliefs of the local Orthodox Christian faithful. Here's a report.
This is what unites people from different cultures, as we come together in prayer, asking God for mercy and peace for our country. Collective prayer holds greater value than individual prayer because it strengthens our unity. In times like these, when peace is lost, people are disconnected from God. Love fades and suffering increases. Such traditions become even more essential for us.
Iricha means unity. When this nation comes from all different corners to this place and celebrates Iricha, it shows its unity. The reason I came from far is to reflect my identity, my being part of this unity.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Wild of Africa. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and on our website and tell us more about the show there. I'm Eric Njoka, and until next time, it's goodbye from me.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
A special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership. We will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
Well, I'd like to congratulate WION for launching this new show, WION Business Masters. And I think this will be a stellar edition because the world of business is at the very heart of what the real world is about. So I think integrating this in the WION content calendar is a great idea, and I congratulate you for it.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center